How's it going, everybody? This is my client, Matt. He's going to be helping me demonstrate some exercises for you today. Matt is a 22-year-old baseball player, right-handed pitcher. Some of his goals around exercise training have to do with increasing his baseball performance as well as improving his overall physique. So the first exercise that Matt's going to be demonstrating for us is our lower extremity exercise. The exercise that I selected for him was the trap bar deadlift, which you can see we have set up here. I selected this exercise for Matt because this is a really good exercise for force production of the lower extremity, most specifically the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes. This exercise is also really good for testing grip strength and forearm strength as well, which is really important for having a strong forearms to support the elbow when pitching. For this exercise movement, it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of a hip hinge, which I'll have Matt demonstrate what a hip hinge for us. So you see at his hips, he's bending down into hip flexion. And it's also a combination of that and a squatting pattern, which occurs more at the knees. So the trap bar deadlift is going to be a little bit of a hip hinge and a little bit of a squat. So it's a combination or a hybrid of the two of those movements. The primary muscle groups that are used in this exercise would be the quadricep group, the glutes, the hamstrings, as well as the upper traps. The secondary muscles that are used in this exercise would be the muscles of the forearm, most specifically the forearm flexor group, which aid in grip strength and being able to hold weights that can sometimes exceed twice an athlete's body weight. All right, so next I'm going to coach Matt on how to perform the trap bar deadlift exercise. So to begin this lift, I'm going to have Matt step inside of the trap bar, make sure that he's centered inside of the bar so that way he's well balanced. Next, I'm going to make sure that he has a good foot position. So we want to make sure he's in a good, comfortable position. Most people prefer to either be shoulder width apart or hip width apart. So you can see Matt is in a good position to start. To begin this exercise, I would have Matt perform the hip hinge, which he would demonstrate by shooting his hips backwards towards the wall behind him. Then he can go ahead and safely reach down for the bar. Notice Matt grabs directly in the center so that way the weight won't tip forward or back. Okay? Then from there, he's going to brace his core with a big deep breath in. Okay? Notice how he has a flat back. He's going to begin this lift by putting force into the floor and standing up straight. Once Matt is up standing tall, he's in full hip extension, his shoulders remain retracted. This would be the isometric portion of the lift. To initiate the eccentric motion of this exercise, you're going to reinitiate the hip hinge, which Matt will demonstrate here, and then he'll slowly lower down the bar. Okay. So that would be one full repetition. I'm going to have Matt reinitiate the exercise as he goes through all of our steps. Go ahead, Matt. So a few things that I want to point out is, notice how Matt does a really good job of maintaining a flat back, neutral neck, and the weight is moving slow and controlled here. So one thing that Matt does a really good job of is taking the slack out of the bar. Notice how he's not forcibly extending the weight up or yanking the weight. Notice how he does a really good job of keeping his scaps retracted, and he's using his lower half to raise the bar up. Really good. So some common mistakes that we often see when teaching the trap bar deadlift. The first one, and probably the most common one, would be yanking of the weight up. So Matt will show you what it looks like when you don't create tension and you don't maintain. So the second most common flaw or mistake that people make when doing the trap bar deadlift is not controlling the eccentric portion of the lift, and they begin to bounce the weights. So Matt's going to demonstrate what bouncing the weights would look like and not controlling the eccentric portion. And the fourth and final most common flaw for the trap bar deadlift is a flexed low back, or what we call lumbar kyphosis. So this often occurs when the low back muscles are very weak, or people just don't have good body awareness. So what Matt will show you here is notice how the back rounds. This puts a lot of strain on the low back and the lumbar discs.